Today is Thursday, November 6th. Great to see everyone, all of our policy committee members, members of the expanded partnership, all the staff that is joining us today in support, and all the members of the public that are joining us in person or remotely. Prior to the roll call, I'd like to make it clear for the record, and should be reflected in the minutes, that Supervisor Moulton Peters is participating remotely under the Just Cause Clause of AB 2449. Supervisor Moulton Peters, please let us know if anyone over the age of 18 joins you during the meeting. And with that, we'll go ahead and do a roll call for the policy committee members.
For the County of Napa, Council Member Mark Joseph.
Or here.
Supervisor Amber Manfrey. Absent. Mayor Pierre Washington.
Here.
County of Marin, Council Member Pat Eklund.
Present.
Supervisor Moulton Peters.
Present.
County of Solano, Supervisor Mitch Mashburn.
Here.
Mayor Andrea Soares.
Here.
Supervisor John Vasquez. Absent. County of Sonoma, Councilmember Victoria Fleming. Absent. Supervisor David Rabbit.
Here.
Vice Chair Supervisor Rebecca Hermosillo.
Here.
And Chair Supervisor Eric Lucan.
Here.
Great, you have a quorum.
Great. Thank you. We also have several others joining us at the table today that are executive directors, general managers, also folks online. I'd like to just go around and do quick introductions for those that are here, and also any members of the expanded partnership to just say, introduce yourself. So why don't we kind of start at this end of the table?
Sure. Chris Caputo on behalf of David Ambiel, who couldn't join today with Caltrans.
Jay Ripida on behalf of James Cameron from Sonoma County Transportation and Climate Authorities.
Andrew Premier, Executive Director, Metropolitan Transportation Commission.
Melissa Puya on behalf of Assemblymember Damon Connolly.
Mark Joseph, council member with the City of American Canyon and also Napa Valley Transportation Authority Chair.
Grant Bailey, sitting on behalf of Danielle Schmitz for the Napa Valley Transportation Authority.
Eddie Cummins, Smart Train General Manager.
Ann Richmond, Transportation Authority of Marin.
All right, and why don't we go online, members of the expanded partnership or staff?
Daryl Hall, Sonoma Transportation Authority.
And I think that might be, I also see we have Shane Trimmer from Congressman Huffman's office. Any other members that want to make sure we catch everybody? That might be everyone. Thank you all for joining us. With that, those that are going to participate remotely should know how to do that at this stage of the game. I do quickly want to thank SMART for hosting today's meeting. I didn't ask him in advance. Director Cummins, do you want to give us just tell us what's happening at SMART in a minute or less or so and thank you for hosting us and all the refreshments outside.
Great. Always happy to talk about SMART. So things are going very well for us. Our ridership is at an all-time high. We carried over 1 million riders in FY25, and we're on pace to carry about 1.4 million in FY26. So things are going very well. Right now, our ridership is trending about 32% higher than it was last year. So that's great year-over-year growth. Things are going well there. We also have several projects underway. We are currently in the progress of building our Hillsburg extension. We're already mobilized on that project and moving forward. And then in the pipeline, on top of that, we have about little over 11 miles of pathway that will be going into construction before too long. So lots of great things happening at SMART.
Thank you, Eddie. And as of just a couple months ago, what is the #1 commuter rail system in the country for ridership return?
You know, the last time I looked, that is SMART. Yeah.
All right.
That's great.
Congratulations. So with that, we'll jump right in to our consent calendar, which is first item on our agenda for today, which is really just the minutes from our previous meeting. Any questions on this? We got a motion and a second. We'll go ahead and call the vote.
Councilmember Eklund. Councilmember Joseph.
Aye.
Supervisor Mashburn. Supervisor Moulton Peters.
Yes.
Supervisor Rabbit.
I'll abstain. I wasn't here.
Mayor Source,
Yes.
Mayor Washington,
Yes.
Vice Chair Hermosillo,
Yes.
Chair Lucan.
Yes. And I think I called for public comment. I'll just double check. Was there any public comment on the consent? My apologies. Okay, not seeing any. Thank you. That passes. We've got a handful of discussion items today. The first one is item 3.1 on communications and construction program update with Bart. Welcome, Bart.
Go ahead and press the button on the mic and it's
Got it.
live.
Can you guys hear me? Good morning, everyone, and welcome to November. This is the month of Thanksgiving, and I'm going to start off with a quick update on our construction project at Fairgrounds Drive that the Solano Transportation Authority is heading up in coordination with us. We have been in communication. Our contractor really has been excellent on this with Assemblymember Wilson's office. They have an annual gobble gobble event for Thanksgiving, where turkeys are given away right there at the fairgrounds. And our project obviously is literally the roadway up to the location. We've stayed in communication with them. They're getting ready to have it. There should be no issues. Traffic concerns have been something that we have been discussing, but the project has been progressing well, and the contractor is actually going to have some folks on staff just in case anything happens. So we're feeling pretty comfortable about that. The project has seen a little bit of a rain delay. We're getting ready to shift into our phase 2 traffic shift. So that's going to actually take place a little later in the month. We were hoping that it would happen a little sooner than that. It's not a super impact to the region, but we are planning to have a Facebook Live event where we talk a little bit about what the transition is going to be and what the project is. Caltrans is going to be doing this with the Solano Transportation Authority, and I believe Mayor Source is going to be joining us for that event. The idea is that we're building up a history of the development of the project so that later on in the year, when we get ready to, or early next year, not later on in the year, when we get ready to introduce the diverging diamond interchange new configuration, there's a whole bunch of information that the media can pick up on, and we can get a good splash out of that. So that project is moving along really, really well. And then the only other update we have is in your packets. The latest program update is available, and it features our new logo, which the folks at home can see, and you guys can see if you just look up there. Basically, the new logo system has all the same elements as the old logo, just composed in a kind of an easier to see arrangement. Along with, you can see that sort of rainbow serpentine line underneath that. That is a display of the 21-mile-long corridor that's color-coded to match each one of the phases of the Pell. So when you take a look, if you haven't read it already, when you take a look at the program, you'll see that depending on what portion that we're talking about, there's a color that corresponds with that. Makes it a little bit easier to interpret the information. You can read the report on your own. Just I'd point out that there is an updated project map in there that's got exactly the locations of all the projects where they're at. There's a program update section that's kind of what I was just talking about that has the corresponding colors. And at the end of it, we have got the current program schedule. So that's our report that's out there and available now. I think the final thing, Jennifer, if you want to bring up the QR code, is we are currently running our, what was the word you used, Jeanette? Traveler survey, not writer survey, traveler survey, where you can click on the QR code. It's being promoted right now, and take an updated version of the survey for what people's interests are, concerns are about State Route 37. We figured it's about time to update that since the last time we've done it. The survey is going to be running until the end of November, and then we'll have the information after that. So that's the basics of what's going on with communications right now. I'd ask, are there any questions?
Hey, thank you, Bart. I'll look to community members, expanded partnership members. Councilmember Eklund.
Thank you very much. I'm kind of curious, what kind of impact is the shutdown at the federal level affecting Caltrans? Or is there any impact?
the shutdown at the federal level, I don't think is affecting the State Route 37 projects much at this point. I don't know, Chris, if there's anything you want to add at a higher level?
Sure. In my area of expertise, which is the environmental process, we interface with numerous federal agencies, and we're looking at potential effects there. Staff are not in place reviewing permit applications and so on. Right now, we have sort of staff level working on things, but supervisors have been furloughed, and so we expect bottlenecks in the future. If the government got back to work today, we would see a bottleneck of workflow and those types of things. So that's sort of my primary concern right now. Beyond that, we're not seeing too many effects right now. Of course, FHWA, one of our key federal partners, is also experiencing those similar challenges as well. So things that require federal approval and so on are we're tracking carefully.
Okay, great, thanks.
Any other questions? Mayor Source.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, thank you, Bart. And I wanted to mention and thank you all as well for coming to a town hall in Vallejo that Supervisor Mashburn and I hosted last month. And, to your point about the survey, because the initial community engagement on this project was many years ago and also pre-COVID, so it's like dog years for people.
Right.
We really saw a need to re-engage, especially Vallejo and Solano County, the impacted folks on this project, and make sure that folks had a chance to weigh in. And so we got a lot of comments from the public, and we have plans to do something more robust after the new year with Caltrans and MTC. And so I just want to thank those teams for coming over and for the continued engagement in making sure, obviously Vallejoans are still concerned about the toll and want to engage in those conversations about the trade-offs that are going to be involved and how we can support folks. So thank you to the comms team and to MTC and Caltrans teams for joining us for that and for the continued engagement on that.
Any others?
All right. Thanks, everyone.
We'll quickly see any online or any public comment on this. I don't see any here in the room.
There are no hands raised at this time.
All right, Bart, thank you for the update. We'll go ahead and move on to item 3.2, which is the near-term Sears Point to Mare Island improvement. I'll have Kevin Chen from MTC.
Good morning, everyone, members of the policy committee. My name is Kevin Chen, MTC staff. I'll be giving an update on the Sears Point to Mare Island Improvement Project. Also, just kind of continue the presentation that we had from the last meeting with regards to resilience components of the project and some of the questions that were raised last time. I'll be joined by my colleague, Jeanette Weissman, for the later part of the presentation. Next slide, please. So just a quick update on where we are on the project in terms of schedule and milestones. So for this project, for construction purposes and for funding, we're going to deliver in 3 construction packages. The first package includes a replacement of the Tully Creek Bridge, as well as improvements at the SR121 and SR37 intersection. So that project, staff just reached a 95% design stage. It's draft at this point that was just completed last month. Am I back on? All right, okay, cool. So design work is basically ongoing and good progress are being made. And the target here is we are shooting for next spring for ready to list or just getting the project ready for a construction advertisement. So that's package 1. And then for packages 2 and 3, package 2 basically is for the eastbound direction improvements, as well as delivery of the Strip Marsh East enhancement component. And then for package 3, that's the rest of the project, providing improvements in the westbound direction. The 65% design was completed a couple months ago in September. Again, that's in draft, and the project team is looking at it, and we'll be reviewing it. For that project, we're looking for ready to list for advertisement in January of 2027. So this is getting pushed out a little bit compared to the previous schedule. And this is mainly to account for to budget a little bit more time as part of the permitting process, which we expect to take some time. Last but not least is on updates to the funding status of the overall project. For package 2, I think we've shared this last time. We were recently awarded $73 million from the California Transportation Commission, the CTC. This is the SB1 program. We were awarded $73 million. And we are in the process of working with Caltrans and CTC in establishing what's called a baseline agreement. And I think CTC is going for adoption of the SB1 program next month in December. So that's moving forward. Package 3, we still have a pretty significant funding gap at the moment. And we're looking at about $74 million in the funding gap. And we're going to be working with Caltrans and partners to apply for the next SB1 cycle. So the SB1 cycle is every 2 years. So we're looking at, I think the application is going to be submitted sometime late in 2026 with program adoption in 2027. So again, we'll be looking for the 3 programs that we applied for last time, the trade corridor program, the solutions for congested corridors, as well as the local partnership, the competitive program there. Next slide, please. Now on to project resilience components. I think we started some of that presentation in the last meeting, so it's just a continuation. The first part of the improvement that we're providing as part of the near-term project is that we're going to raise the roadway profile, if you will, at some of the key segments. Now, I want to spend a couple of minutes to orient you with this graphics. It looks like a heat map. It's not a traffic heat map, but it's very similar, but what it's showing is the roadway elevation. So Highway 37, as you can tell, is kind of in the center of things. The scale of the elevation is in the upper right-hand corner. The color coding is similar or analogous, if you will, to a traffic heat map, if you will. So red is showing elevations of the road where it's low. So you're looking at the red color is in the 1 to 2 feet or 2 to 4 feet range. Then moving on to the orange color is between 6 and 10 feet or so. And then yellow indicating that it's in the 10 to 12 feet range. Green is in pretty good shape. That's in the 20-foot range. So you also see that in addition to the highway, we're also showing the adjacent levee system. A lot of those are private levees that's outside the highway. But what it does is that as long as those levees are maintained, the highway does get benefits from those adjacent levee systems that's out there. So on this corridor, as you can tell, the red colors are on the western portion in Marin and Sonoma counties with some of the lower elevations. And as we know, Caltrans is proceeding with the Novato Creek Bridge project on the western end to address one of the most vulnerable sections there. Then in the middle portion between Sears Point and Mare Island, so that's like the middle of the map and all the way to the right-hand side of the map, you can see that it's mostly in yellow, meaning that we are actually 10 to 12 feet above sea level. So that's actually pretty good compared to the western portion of the corridor. We do have some portion that are in orange. And we kind of highlighted 2 locations. One is actually just to the east of the 121 intersection, nearby the Tubbs Island area. And the other section is kind of to the Vallejo Mare Island area. So in those 2 particular segments, the plan is that we would raise those 2 particular segments by up to 8 inches to basically bring it to a consistent level with the rest of the corridor. Now you'll see that along the rest of the Tubbs Island area there, there are some other, is a longer stretch of orange color there. But like I said before, there's a levee out there, and the highway is basically getting benefits and all protected by the levee system that's out there that has a higher elevation. Yeah, next slide, please. So the next resilient component that we are including as part of the near-term project is to address roadway subsidence. The portion of the highway that's between the Tolly Creek Bridge and the Sonoma Creek Bridge is most prone to subsidence. I think based on Caltrans maintenance records, I think it occurs pretty regularly, and on an annual basis, the subsidence is as much as several inches. And you can see that the picture to the right-hand side, the top, the pavement mark does show that there's a lot of repairs that happen over the years. And then the picture at the bottom right-hand side shows that during the winter, where when we have high tides coupled with heavy storms, it does get pretty vulnerable, as showing the picture there. So during those times, there are definitely days where the shoulder of the highway gets partially flooded. And I think maybe earlier this year, the highway might have been closed for a couple of days or so. But so that's the section where it's most vulnerable. In addition to raising the profile there, what we are doing as part of the project is that we want to basically help confine the roadway. We want to really get to the subsidence issue, which is really caused by the fact that the highway sits on a very thick layer of young bay muds underneath. So what we're doing here, as illustrated on the graphics, is that on the south side of the highway or along the eastbound direction, we're going to be installing sheet pile walls or retaining walls, depending on the structural needs, to really help stabilize the roadway prism. And then on the north side of the highway, what we're doing is that we are providing an embankment confinement system because, sorry, let me just add that for the south side, because it's really facing the bay. That's why we need to beef it up a little bit more. But on the north side, where the impact is not as significant, we are doing an embankment confinement system really to protect the slide slope. And then we are doing a one-to-one slide slope there really to minimize environmental impacts. So that's what we're doing as part of this component to help address subsidence and really trying to minimize flooding risk on this highway. Next slide, please. The next resilience component is the replacement of the Tolly Creek Bridge. I think we've talked about this quite a few times already. And in the last meeting, Jeanette, Aaron from the CDFW, as well as Julian Meisler from the Sonoma Land Trust, actually did a very detailed presentation on going through the history of the baylands in this area, as well as the planned restoration as part of the bayland, the Sonoma Creek Bayland strategy, as well as the Tolly Creek Bridge restoration plans. And really emphasizing why it's important to replace the existing bridge with a new bridge, because the existing bridge is very short. It's only about 60 feet or so. But in order to accommodate for the planned restoration, we really need a longer bridge. So we're replacing it with a 375 feet bridge. And that's really going to be critical to help enable the acceleration of the planned restoration in the North Bay here. Yeah, I think that's all I wanted to cover on this slide. Next, please. I think a question that was raised and was raised in the last policy committee meeting, as well as some of the previous meetings as well, in terms of the excavation or the removal of fill as part of the Tolly Creek Bridge replacement project. So in order to accommodate for the planned restoration, we are looking at a longer bridge. So that's just one dimension, but we also need to look at the vertical dimension of it. So as part of the project, we are planning to excavate a lot of fill that went into this area as part of the roadway and the old bridge over time. So as part of the bridge replacement, we will be doing that. I want to just kind of mention a little bit on this graphic. So this graphic on the left side is kind of close to the smart tracks in SR121, and going to the right-hand side is kind of towards the Tubbs Island area. So the existing channel, as you can see on the left side, is just like the first span of the new bridge, and that's where the current bridge is. The existing roadway surface, or the existing grade, is shown in like the second line there in this graphic. And then the new bridge is shown on the top line. So the new bridge will definitely be raised a little bit higher compared to the existing bridge. And then going further down, as part of this project, the current plan is to excavate it down to the marsh plain elevation. So that's the blue line, the third line on this map. So that's what we have in the current project design. And that's what's included in the engineer's estimate at this point. We understand that there's most likely benefits as well as a desire to look at further excavation down to elevation 0 in order to really optimize the prism that's needed to accommodate the planned restoration. So we are really working in close coordination with Sonoma Ranch Trust, the group that's really spearheading the restoration effort, as well as some of the regulatory agencies, namely the Water Board, CDFW, as well as our partners over at SFEI, in really looking at how do we coordinate this roadway project, the bridge replacement, along with all the planned restoration efforts, and how can we maximize efficiency in delivering what's needed as part of the roadway project and the restoration project. Is it possible for us to get down to elevation 0, for example? What does it take on engineering-wise? And is it going to cost us more? And is this something we can accommodate? So all of those are still in the works, and we hope to report back at some point in the near future. I also like to mention that we also, as part of this work, we also be supporting and we'll be conducting a number of studies, including a geomorphology study, as well as hydrodynamic modeling to really better understand the hydrology of all the planned restoration efforts, and really seeing how it could put the potential impact of sediments and scouring impacts and so forth. So all of that is underway, and again, we'll be reporting out on that later. The last thing I'll mention is that I think based on feedback that we heard from the reg agencies, as part of the bridge replacement, we'll also in the design, we'll account for provision of bench areas for wildlife connectivity. So that's an additional environmental benefits that we'll be bringing as part of the project. Next, please. All right. Next, I want to kind of review the project impacts. I think this is one of the questions that was asked about last time. And this kind of goes hand in hand with the next slide that I'll be talking about. So with this project, it does involve widening in order to accommodate the additional lane. So on this map, this graphics, what we're showing is that the rectangular area, if you will, that's with the black hatch area is the footprint basically for the near-term project. So that includes the additional lane, the side slope, and so forth. But this graphics is also showing the wetlands in this area. So the blue color is other waters by definition, as well as the purple color showing the wetlands. We're also showing the agricultural ditch in yellow. And what I want to point out is that the the impact that we have on wetlands, which is our main focus, is really the overlapping area of the hedge area in black dots, where we're overlapping with the blue color and the purple colors. So we're looking at a really narrow strip across the entire corridor. And when you go through the entire 9 to 10 miles of the project, it adds up to the overall impacts of 9 acres that we've been disclosing in our environmental impact report. But hopefully this graphics here help illustrate the fact that yes, we are widening, but the impact is really a small strip along the entire corridor. Next slide, please. So kind of goes along with that. The question was asked before, how much fill are we actually doing as part of the project? I mentioned about the 9 acres of impact. So the 9 acres is the area that we are affecting. What does it mean in terms of volumes? So this slide shows the quantity of fill that we'll be adding as part of the project. So with this project, again, along the entire 9-mile stretch, we'll be adding 89,000 cubic yards of fill. So on the graphics to the right, you can see that that's illustrated by the yellow color. So the green color shows the existing roadway, and the additional fill that we are putting on is shown in yellow. So just relatively speaking, is not a very significant amount. And then the second part of the question from the previous meeting is that, well, we are doing additional fill, and when we get to the ultimate project down the road, or the long-term project, this is going to make, the question was, how much more difficult are we going to make the future removal of the highway? How much more difficult is it going to be? So we came up with this graphics to illustrate the fact that the additional fill in relation to the roadway is really a small amount. And then going back to the table on the left-hand side, we're looking at adding 89,000 cubic yards compared to the existing roadway, which is estimated at about 530,000 cubic yards. It's roughly about 16 to 17% of the existing roadway. So again, just want to emphasize that it's a fairly small amount compared to what's currently out there, and doesn't really materially change the approach or the level of effort required to remove the existing road when time comes to implement the long-term project. Next slide, please. All right, so as part of the construction for the first work package, we are going to be installing some retaining walls. And this graphic shows where the retaining walls are going to go. So I'll start on the left-hand side, basically west of 121, because we are widening the highway to accommodate the additional lane approaching the intersection. We are going to be cutting into the hillside, so retaining walls are needed for structural purposes to protect the highway. And then moving over to east of 121, a couple of retaining walls are going to be constructed as part of the bridge replacement. So that's walls number 3 and 5, I think. And then moving to the east, we do have several other walls. So this wall number 4, 7, and 8. And as I mentioned, so this is going towards east of the new bridge. And just kind of relating back to the earlier slide that I mentioned, that the highway does experience subsidence. And these retaining walls are really essential to really help confine the highway from experiencing those subsidence issue, and really help provide resilience improvements as part of the project. Let's see. And then again, on the north side, we don't have a lot of retaining walls. What we're doing is we're going to be providing a slope protection on the north side of the highway. So, but I think this question came up last time in terms of where exactly the retaining walls are going to go. That's why we want to report out on this one. So with that, I'm going to Hand over to Jeanette on the next one.
Hi, Jeanette Wiseman with MTC. Next slide, please. So at the last policy committee, a question came up, and it's come up in other venues, is the question of what happens to these retaining walls that are placed right next to the bay. I think it's a little bit of a novel situation for some people and trying to understand what that will look like and how we're designing for it. So to better understand it and inform our design, our team has conducted a wind wave analysis looking at the vulnerability of the retaining walls. And what we're showing here is specifically are the proposed retaining walls along Tole Lagoon, shown for the south side in blue in that picture. And then at Tubbs Island, which is another low point, as we looked at earlier in that elevational map that Kevin described to us. So red is the southern side of Tubbs Island, and then shown in green is the transect that we analyzed to the north of Tubbs Island and Tole Lagoon. And so our team looked at what the 100-year storm with the coastal water levels, with wind waves and sea level rise, and looking at what that elevation would be, and then what would be the loading on the walls as a consequence in these retaining wall sections where we would be within that 100-year FEMA floodplain. And so that analysis has been conducted. They came up with what we're seeing in that table in the bottom right is the results that they came up with for each of those transects that looked at the elevation, calculated the potential loads and scour to help inform the Caltrans and program design for the depth of the wall and the potential need for protection, be it a rock revetment, rock slope protection to help with drainage and to protect the wall. I think what I would point out in summary from that effort is that the vulnerability is relatively low. Tubbs Island is actually, even though it's low compared to some portions of our corridor, not as low as the Marin County, but it is a vulnerable point. But it's only in that 100-year scenario that we see the potential for that wave overtopping, or really that's the primary vulnerability for wave overtopping into Tubbs Island, and then the exposure to the retaining walls. And it looks as if very minimal protection is needed as compared to, in absence of doing this study, we might build some really big protection, which is something we want to avoid if it's not needed, to really minimize the developed space in the bay and baylands. So that is our current analysis and will be used in completing our project designs for the retaining walls. Next slide. And so I think to wrap up our resilience topic for the near-term project, we definitely want to refocus our attention on the Strip Marsh East ecological enhancement, and to point out that this is both a very valuable resilience item for us for the roadway, and then also for existing restoration and planned restoration to the north. So Strip Marsh East is just west of Mare Island, and it's indicated off to the left. It continues west And it's a very wide swath, and it's a naturally occurring marsh vegetation, high marsh, that's occurred due to sediment being deposited by waves in this area over time. But in the past decades and more extensively in recent years, this high marsh has been degrading rapidly. And the reason that matters is that this is habitat which otherwise can support our rare bay species, rails and salt marsh, harvest mouse, and just be valuable habitat in and of itself. So we've been working with restoration leaders in this area that have been looking for decades to come up with an approach here to reestablish and really enhance this habitat to really provide important refugia for those sensitive bay and bayland species. So as part of the near-term project, we'll be doing that work by addressing the drainage problem that's inherent to the degradation. So key to that is what's shown to the west. That's to remove some of the drainage barriers, which are preventing the flow of water out currently and leading to the drowning of the marsh vegetation and the ultimate loss of the marsh vegetation. We're also developing drainages along the stretch that will carry out the water and function more effectively for moving water, particularly during, or as a consequence of big storms, so it doesn't just sit as puddles. And then addressing the subsidence and reversing it from the past decades so that we build back up this high marsh that is so valuable for species and can really provide this nature-based solution to storm surge, protecting both the roadway and, as I noted, the restoration Cullinan Ranch to the north, so that even while we are working towards removing this section of State Route 37 in the long term, that Strip Marsh East can continue provide value as a buffer to storm surge for this restoration area where we've already put substantial dollars, and we need a real transition to really continue restoration habitat and to support the work that CDFW, Napa Sonoma Marshes, and the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Refuge has done. Next slide. So I think in closing, I just want to refer back to Mayor Source's point earlier about our communications and the efforts that we're doing to really engage on this project with the surrounding communities and with a focus on Vallejo, particularly in this case, to really connect with citizens and the public on their concerns. And many thanks to Supervisor Mashburn and Mayor Source for setting that up and giving us an opportunity to listen to the Vallejoans and the concerns. And that was a very useful exercise that we're going to be, working on, taking the feedback that we heard and working towards future communications. So we will be back out to speak to that group and to others with greater detail on our project planning, probably late winter or spring. I will remind folks that survey with the QR code that was shared earlier is also available on our websites, the Resilient 37 website, and then also the Caltrans State Route 37 website as well. So we are very interested in continuing to get your feedback and think there's some useful information for people as part of that survey. So more on that later. And that's our presentation.
Great. Thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Jeanette. And we'll start with a round of questions. We'll start with Mayor Washington.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for the presentation. And my question is actually for Kevin. Earlier on the Toland Creek Bridge replacement, maybe it's just me, but the replacement, are we replacing it side by side, or is the part of the replacement overhead of the bridge? If it's overhead, then I'm thinking there's need to be a reroute.
Yeah, there will be actually, yeah, you talk about the construction phasing.
Yes.
I can't, yeah, so I think that's something that we'll continue to work with Caltrans and the CMGC contractor to figure out the phasing in terms of the temporary structure that will be built and how the traffic is going to be transitioned. But the plan is to maintain traffic operating during construction. So we're not looking forward to like fully close the highway during construction. There might be some occasions where there might be some night closure needed, but the plan is to keep the highway functioning while construction is happening with a temporary bridge. But the new bridge is basically going to be at the current alignment, if you will, but you'll be a little bit higher, as I shown earlier in the presentation.
Okay. Thank you, Kevin.
Yeah, Councilmember Joseph.
Yes, and following up on that, there's a lot of excavation for that project. What's going to happen to those materials?
Very good question. I can start, and Jeanette, feel free to chime in. I think the project team is they're gonna have to do some testing, for example, of the soil that's underneath, and I guess depending on the quality in terms of determining where they can go, whether it could be used by other restoration efforts or if this could be used as part of the project or something.
Yeah, so that is really the heart of it. We're looking to be able to reuse it on site where that's appropriate and we can get real benefits for it, both in terms of habitat, building, and costs effectiveness. So we're working closely with the water board and our partners to, evaluate the soil fit and make sure that it screens properly for the use. But I do think this is a really important component of our planning. There's a lot of materials that we'll have both from excavating and potential need on site and nearby for those materials. So we're really looking for potential beneficial reuse.
All right, so we'll go to Supervisor Rabbit and then Supervisor Moulton Peters online.
Thank you very much. Thank you for all the presentations. I appreciate it. And just a quick question regarding, and David over there, let's chime in if you can. The last couple of weeks, Sonoma County's been doing a lot of interim repair work to that last half mile of Lakeville Highway where it meets 37, which is failing and needs to have a significant investment to keep it from sinking and doing all the things that 37 is doing. What's the grade change elevation at that point when that road meets 37 as compared to what it is today?
Sorry, you talking about Lakeville Highway or?
Lakeville where it joins 37, yeah, that intersection.
I'm not sure if we can bring up that I
is it
don't have it on top of my head, but if we can bring up the graphics, actually, that might give us an idea. Jennifer, is it possible to pull the graphics back up? The one with the heat, like a heat map?
Yeah. I was trying to discern from that if it's a number of feet higher, what that means.
For the long term, is that what you mean? What we'll be planning on for the long term?
And I know part of our discussion long term is also wondering if the alignment for Lakeville Highway, the county road, should remain where it is or move to the east along the edge of the, I guess that's Cougar Mountain, so that it would actually take advantage of the natural grade and not have to build structure, but then that involves right of way and everything else.
Oh, yeah.
Through the chair, if I may.
Please.
So for the planning environmental linkages study that was done for Highway 37, it assumed a future elevation of, I believe, 35 feet for the new causeway. As you know, the section of Lakeville is the lowest point in the corridor, so maybe need to be a little higher than that or a little lower, depending on the updated Ocean Protection Council guidance. So I think you can assume probably the future causeway would need to be 25 to 35 feet higher in that location. If there was a future air change in Lakeville as well, that would probably need to be higher than that, or as you suggested, going further to the east and have it cross under 37 at an elevated point.
Sounds like we're going to have an elevator at that intersection. No, I appreciate that. Thank you, David. And that was part of the conversation and the ability to look maybe at alternative solutions. And we will be moving forward with some preliminary feasibility work, at least, if not some initial design to try to get it to a point where it's shovel ready. So thank you. I appreciate that.
I'll go Supervisor Moulton Peters.
Yeah, thank you. Question for Kevin. I appreciated the additional detail that Kevin and Jeanette presented. I wanted to ask about the sheet piles that are being used. This is a strategy that I know we're using in my district in southern Marin to shore up levees that we have protecting communities in Tam Valley and also in Tiburon, Belvedere. But I wonder, Kevin, if you could comment on sheet piles and the strategy that you're using that seems to involve minimal additional fill, and whether this is a strategy that's used, in Caltrans system in other locations.
Yeah, no, thank you for the question. I think Caltrans definitely has used sheet pile walls on the western portion to address some of the flooding issues. I think this is back in maybe 2017, 2018 or so, in some of those sections that were flooded back then. And I think it's been working pretty well so far over there. But definitely, I guess for the Sears Point Valley Improvement Project, you're right. I think it does serve both purposes. One is to really help address subsidence, and two, I guess with the sheet pile walls, it does help us minimize the environmental impacts, if you will. Because so that the roadway prism doesn't need to include all the side slope and so forth. But whether it's sheet pile walls or retaining walls, that's going to be based on the structural needs, as I've shown in the presentation earlier. So so the actual construction might be one or the other.
Right. And I've seen that again in the low-lying areas of southern Marin on our former marshes, it's sheet piles or retaining walls. But anyway, it seems like a minimalist interim strategy, and I just want to understand the application here. So thank you.
Councilmember Eklund, did you have a question?
Yes, actually, I wanted to follow up on an earlier question about the fill or the material that's going to be excavated as well. I think it's really important for us to have a better understanding about where is the material going to be excavated from, and then how can we try to incorporate it into the actual use for Highway 37 so that there's no net disposal of it elsewhere. So I would really like to, and if the other commissioners aren't interested in that, I would like to see a better discussion and a more thorough discussion about where the fill specifically is going to be excavated from and where is it going to go. So are we going to be able to have something like that sometime this next year?
Yeah, so I think as a team makes more progress on the design and also through those soil testing, we can definitely report back once we come up with, I guess, some ideas on how to deal with it, because it does affect our construction costs as well. I think not only are we thinking about just reusing on site, but it's also for cost efficiency of delivering the project.
Right. But I would like to see a more detailed discussion. So, okay, thank you.
Yep, thank you.
And I'll just jump in and add, because I think this would be of interest to this group, and I'll just put it in as a teaser, not ready yet, not ready now, but for a future meeting in 2026. One potential use that we're looking at is for, conceptually stormwater treatment, like a green stormwater infrastructure. And that's one of the things that we're looking at is the potential on-site, near-site opportunity that both adds value in terms of habitat creation, enhancement, maybe even some energy reduction based on its placement, but that also reduces the cost of the project and allows us to move forward more quickly with the work as a result. So we look forward to, sharing some of that, but it will be a lot of specifics around the screening, like Kevin noted, as we take soil samples and then determine the appropriateness for the use.
Thank you.
Great. Any other questions or comments, and also from our expanded partnership group before we go to public comment? Not seeing. I'll just ask one. So we're 95% on package one for maybe our next meeting, early part of next year. What do you think we'll be presenting at that point? I think in particular, I'd like to get a little more detail on the SR121 intersection improvements as we get kind of towards that final design. Is that something we're anticipating early next year?
Yeah, I think we are shooting for sometime in the spring for RTL for advertising the project. So yeah, I think for the spring we can definitely provide an update on the design, especially as it relates to the intersection. I think might be good to give a graphics showing how the lane transition that might be of interest in terms of, for example, the eastbound approaching the intersection, how traffic should be positioning themselves and so forth. So we can definitely come back with more information like that.
I think that'd be great in the future, or even some of the construction phasing, some of those things, as as this is getting ready to go out for bid, could be of interest. Great. Let's see. Is there any public comment at this time? We'll start. Anyone here in the room? Any online public comment? I see one hand up there.
Kate Powers, please unmute.
I just wanted to add, Kate Powers, I just wanted to add my thanks to both to Caltrans and to Jeanette for the level of detail you've done in answering questions at previous meetings. And then just to say at the July Policy Committee meeting, I think, Kevin, you mentioned that Caltrans is in the process of looking at updating the costs of the interim project. And I think it would be of public interest to understand what those costs are and understand, how 89,000 cubic yards of fill, that cost and that amount of transportation might be ameliorated by the fill that's able to be reused from the excavation around Tully Creek Bridge, et cetera. I think there's many people in the public that kind of are tracking this issue, this project, and looking at it as a model for future as we all deal with a sea level rise and roadways flooding, et cetera. So I'm hoping that I appreciate the level of detail that you're addressing, and I think it's been really helpful in understanding the project on a broader level. Thank you.
Thank you, Kate. Any other public commenters?
Chair, there are no additional hands raised at this time.
All right. With that, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, Jeanette. We look forward to future updates in 2026. We'll move on to item number 3.3, which is the long-term Nevada Creek Bridge replacement.
All right. Good morning, policy committee members and everyone. My name is Ricky Gao from Caltrans. I'll be giving the update for the Nevada Creek Bridge replacement project as the first SR37 ultimate resiliency program project that going into construction, and is the first construction package of the flood reduction project between US 101 and Atherton Avenue. And this project will address the recurring flooding and the sea level rise of projected year 2130 elevation at the Nevada Creek Bridge. Next slide, please. As shared previously in the last few meetings, the total project cost of funding is 270 million, consists of 155 million IIJA and 25 million RM3 and 75 million from SHOP and 50 million from AB 179. Next slide. Currently, we are in design phase. The next milestone will be the 95% PSE package circulation in January. Our design team is working really hard on that. At the same time, we are submitting the environmental permit applications to our resource agencies. Most of our permits has already submitted, and a few federal permits is still in the work. And next slide, I'll show the permit. These are the permits from 441, 1600, and the biological opinions from various of agencies. There is a very high risk for the permit to be on time and get the project ready for lease in May. Because of the highest risk is the permits from the federal government, from the U.S. Army Corps of Engineers to National Marine Fishery Services to U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service. Like as Chris Caputo mentioned earlier, many of the federal agencies, their staff are still working, but the supervisors has been on furlough and nobody's reviewing the projects or their work. So we anticipate a delay in the permit process, and that puts the project at risk. But from the staff level, we are working really hard to submit the permits and work with our state resource agencies to get everything ready, just waiting for the federal permits next calendar year. So that's where we are. And in the last meeting, we shared the construction staging visual simulation with the group. So that work is still ongoing, and it's part of our design package. And so, and we will go to finish design in May 26 and go to funding allocation in August CTC and anticipate start construction in 27. So that is my quick update. Novato Creek Bridge replacement project, and happy to take questions.
Thank you, Javier. Any questions?
Ricky.
Oh, I'm sorry.
No,
my apologies. I just looked at her. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Ricky. We'll move, Councilmember Eklund.
Thank you very much. Are you planning to have a workshop and eventually a public hearing in Novato about the proposed change to the Novato Creek Bridge?
We had quite a few the public meetings in the past during the environmental phase. So we will plan to have more outreach as we're getting closer to construction, especially once we awarded the project and have a detailed construction. We'll certainly have a public meeting or workshop type to make sure our message and construction impact is broadcasted to our communities. Yes.
I'd also like to have some hearing with the city council or a workshop or something so that the entire staff and the city council can provide some input. And then the other question I had was, so you're going to have to replace the bridge. Are you going to have a plan on are you going to do like a temporary bridge elsewhere?
Yes, like I shared, Javier shared last time in our state construction plan, our goal is to keep one lane traffic in each direction open at a given time, and there will be a movable median barrier to manage the traffic and to keep the peak traffic period with 2 lanes while making room for the construction on the other side and then switch traffic over. And the stage construction visual simulation YouTube clip is still on our Caltrans website under State Route 37. So encourage everybody to take another look and
okay, right.
Yeah. Thank you.
And was that presented at the public workshops that you held? There's how you're going to manage traffic during the replacement of the bridge?
We developed that stage construction plan fairly recently. So once we're getting closer to construction, we will certainly present and with more details.
Okay, and I'd sure like to coordinate with you to make sure that it's not a date that doesn't conflict with like a city council meeting or something.
Sounds good.
So thank you.
Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Councilmember Eklund. We'll make sure we get that. There was a really detailed visualization that was prepared. And I think a lot of folks in the Nevada community would be interested to see that. So how we can communicate that out. Thank you for providing that. Yes. Yeah. Thank you. Any other questions? Not seeing any. We'll quickly look. Any public comment in the room? Any online?
There are no hands raised at this time.
All right. Thank you, Ricky. With that actually concludes our discussion information items for the day. Is there any public comment on items not on today's agenda? Not seeing any there. I'll just ask my colleagues to go ahead and take a look at the future meeting schedule and future topics. If there's any questions that either of you have or future topics that you'd like to put out now, in addition to the comments we provided today, now would be the time. And you could always communicate those to staff outside. Oh, Councilmember Joseph.
Just confirming that we'll talk eventually about the cut fill analysis and the reuse.
Yeah.
So okay.
I mean, if staff wants to, our next meeting will be on February 5th, which I think will probably be the next meeting before. Well, we might have two more meetings before the package one is ready to list. So there's, I think, maybe two opportunities. I'm kind of looking for head nods. Yeah. Okay. Anything else from my colleagues? Mayor Source.
Just clarifying question. The future topic, innovative financing, is that when we'll come back to the tolling, and would that be when we can continue that equity question on the tolling?
Yes, and then it'll probably be.
Oh, never mind. I'm blind. Thank you, Supervisor. It's 6.3. Correct. Yeah. I was going in order and one by one. All right. Thank you.
All right. If there's no others, that concludes our meeting for today. We are adjourned. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you at our next meeting in February.